When I woke up that August morning in 1942, my hand was shaking so badly that I spilled half my coffee on the floor. The other officers laughed. They made a bet right there, in front of everyone. 5 packs of cigarettes that I wouldn't last a week in combat. They were not wrong to doubt. I was 30 years old, too old to be a fighter pilot. I drank every night until I passed out. I owed money to half the base, and I had been discharged from the United States Navy for insubordination. My name is Pappy Boyington, but everyone called me Pappy. And what those idiots didn't know is that I had absolutely nothing to lose. Guadalcanal was boiling with blood and fire. The Japanese dominated the Pacific like a plague of locusts. Their pilots were war machines, trained since childhood, disciplined like monks. They flew Zero fighters, so agile they seemed to dance in the air. Us, we had old Corsairs, patched together with wire and prayers, and inexperienced drivers who wet their pants when they saw a Zero in their rearview mirror. Except me. I had already flown in China with the Flying Tigers. I already had 6 confirmed kills, but nobody cared about that. All they saw was a wasted drunk who could barely sign his own name without smudging the ink. On our first mission, we took off at 5 in the morning. The sun hadn't yet risen. The sea below was an endless black blotch. I was still hungover. My skull throbbed. My stomach churned. But when I gripped the Corsair's control stick, something changed inside me. The pain vanished. The world became clear, crystal clear. 15 minutes later, we spotted the Japanese formation, 20 Zeros, maybe more. The squadron leader shouted on the radio for us to maintain formation, to not separate, to follow protocol. I turned off the radio. I pushed the joystick forward and dove straight into the dragon's throat. The other pilots must have thought I was crazy. Maybe I was, but I knew one thing they didn't. The Japanese expected fear. They expected hesitation. I gave them pure fury. The first Zero didn't even see me coming. I fired a burst of 50 caliber rounds that ripped its left wing off like paper. I saw the pilot trying to eject. He couldn't. I swerved to the left so violently that I felt my ribs protest. Another Zero stuck right behind me. I cut the engine. The Corsair stopped in midair as if it had hit an invisible wall. Zero whizzed past me. I restarted the engine, climbed behind it, and opened fire. The cockpit exploded in glass and blood. 2 kills in less than 30 seconds. But now I had 5 Zeros on top of me. Bullets whizzed through the air like furious wasps. One pierced my right wing. Another ricocheted off the engine hood. I smelled burnt oil mixed with gunpowder. I spun. I dove. I came up. I spun again. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. And then I saw a lone Zero walking away from the formation. Probably a scared rookie trying to get back home. Easy prey. I sped up after him. He saw me, panicked, and tried to climb up. Fatal mistake. I already knew what he was going to do before he knew it himself, disappear. The Zero disintegrated in midair. 3 kills in 1 mission. When I landed, the other pilots were silent. They looked at me as if I were a ghost or a demon. The officer who had placed the bet approached. He placed the 5 packs of cigarettes in my hand. "You're crazy, Pappy." I lit a cigarette. My hands weren't shaking anymore. "No," I said, slowly exhaling the smoke. "I'm just not afraid to die." And it was true. Because when you've already lost everything, when you're at rock bottom, death is no longer a threat. It's a liberation. But what I didn't know yet was that the Japanese had put a price on my head. $500, dead or alive. And they were going to send their best pilots after me. 3 weeks after my first mission, I already had 12 confirmed kills. 12 Japanese pilots killed by my hand. 12 families who would never see their children return home again. I tried not to think about it when I drank at night. I tried and failed. The other drivers started following me, not because they liked me. Nobody liked me. I was arrogant, rude, drank too much, and broke all the rules. But I kept them alive. We formed a squadron, 28 pilots that nobody else wanted. The rejects, the troublemakers, the drunks, and the crazy ones. They called us the Black Sheep Squadron, and we loved that name. At the base, I painted a scoreboard on the wall of our shed. Each slaughter earned a mark. My name was already at the top with 17 marks when it happened. It was October. The sky was too clear. That kind of perfect blue that seems like a bad joke before hell breaks loose. We took off in a formation of 8 Corsairs. Escort mission. To protect bombers that were going to strike Japanese positions in Bougainville. Simple, direct, routine. I should have been suspicious. We were at 10,000 feet when I heard the scream on the radio. "Bandits! Bandits! 6 o'clock!" I looked back. The sky was black with zeros. There weren't 20. There weren't 30. There were more than 50. An ambush. And we were right in the middle of it. "Disperse! Disperse!" I shouted into the radio, but my voice was swallowed by the chaos. The zeros descended upon us like hawks upon pigeons. Bullets tore through the air in every direction. I saw a Corsair explode to my left. The pilot didn't even have time to scream. I spun violently to the right. 2 zeros chased me. I dove. They dove with me. 5,000 feet. 4,000. 3,000. The ocean was approaching faster and faster. 2,000 feet. I pulled the joystick with all my might. The Corsair groaned. Its wings trembled. I felt the blood running down my head. My vision blurred at the edges, but I managed. The 2 zeros couldn't do it. They tried to pull too late. I watched them both smash into the ocean like stones thrown against a concrete wall. I went back upstairs. I looked for my men. 3 Corsairs were still flying. 5 had crashed. 5 of my men, dead. Rage exploded inside me like napalm. I sped straight towards the zeros formation. I fired without aiming properly. A burst grazed one of them. It started to smoke. Another zero clung to my tail. I felt the impact of the bullets hitting my fuselage. 1, 2, 3. Metal tearing, oil leaking, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Because if I stopped, if I thought, if I felt, I would fall apart right there. So I kept shooting. I kept flying. I kept killing. When we finally returned to base, there were only 4 Corsairs left. 4 out of 8. 50% casualties. I got off the plane with wobbly legs. My Corsair had 27 bullet holes. 27. The mechanic looked at the aircraft and then at me. "How are you still alive?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know the answer. That night, I drank more than ever. I drank until my stomach churned. I drank until I couldn't remember the names of the men I had lost anymore. But at 4 in the morning, I woke up in a cold sweat, because I remembered. I remembered every name, every face, every silly joke they told in the shack. And then came the news. The Japanese command had increased the bounty on my head, $1,000. They wanted to see me dead, personally, and they were sending their best pilot after me. A man named Saburo Sakai. 64 confirmed kills, a living legend. He had sworn he was going to kill me, personally, and I knew he was coming. The only question was, when? Saburo Sakai arrived one afternoon in November. It came unannounced. It didn't come with any fanfare. It came as death always comes, silent, unexpected, inevitable. We were returning from a routine patrol. 6 Corsairs, clear skies, nothing on the radar. I was relaxed. Fatal mistake. The first warning was the sound. A sharp whistle cut through the air. Then the impact. Bullets tearing through my left wing as if it were wet paper. I looked back. A zero, alone, painted completely black, without any markings. It was him. Sakai. He wasn't trying to take me down from afar. He was toying with me, testing me, teasing me, like a cat torturing a mouse before killing it. I turned to the left. He turned with me, perfectly synchronized. I went up. He went up. I dived. He dived. He anticipated every move I made. It was like fighting my own shadow. I fired a burst. He dodged with insulting ease. I fired again. Same thing, and then he did something that chilled me to the bone. He flew beside me, less than 10 meters away. I could see his face through the cockpit, his eyes fixed on me. Cold, calculating. He nodded, a slow nod, deliberate, mocking, and then it sped up and disappeared into the clouds. He didn't shoot. He didn't try to kill me. It just showed me that it was possible. When I landed, my hands were shaking so much that I dropped the whiskey bottle. The glass shattered on the shed floor. Nobody said anything. They just stared at me. He was just messing with me, I said, more to myself than to them. That son of a bitch was messing with me. The following days were a psychological hell. Every mission I searched for the black zero. Every shadow in the sky made my heart race. Every cloud hid a threat. He was on my mind, and he knew it. On the 5th day, he returned. This time, he didn't come alone. He brought a whole lineup, 15 zeros. We were 8 Corsairs. The battle lasted 23 minutes, 23 minutes of pure chaos. Metal against metal, speed against skill, will to live against, will to kill. I scored 2 goals in the first 5 minutes. I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no triumph, because I knew he was there, somewhere, watching, waiting. And then I saw him. The black zero, diving right on top of my wingman. A 19-year-old kid named Tommy. It was his 3rd mission. He didn't stand a chance. I did the only thing I could do. I placed my Corsair between Tommy and Sakai. Bullets hit my plane like hail. The control panel exploded. The cockpit glass shattered. I felt something warm running down my face. Blood. My blood. But Tommy escaped, and Sakai realized what I had done. He stopped shooting. He flew beside me again, this time closer. So close I could see the expression on his face. It wasn't anger, it wasn't satisfaction, it was out of respect. He gave a military salute. Then he went upstairs and disappeared. I managed to get back to base on autopilot. The Corsair was smoking, the engine was sputtering, but it was flying. I landed hard. So hard I broke the landing gear. The plane slid down the runway in a shower of sparks. When I finally managed to get out, I collapsed to the ground. The doctors rushed over. They took me to the infirmary. 14 stitches on my forehead, 3 cracked ribs. Mild concussion. It could have been worse. Much worse. That night, lying in my hospital bed, I looked at the new scar in the mirror, and I understood something. Sakai wasn't trying to kill me. He was testing me. I wanted to know if I was worthy of the final duel, and now he knew. I was. The question was, would I survive? Because Sakai had shot down 64 pilots, and none of them had lived to tell the tale. None. I flew again 3 days later, against medical advice, against common sense, against everything. But I had no choice, because the previous night, we intercepted a Japanese radio transmission. It was encrypted, but our intelligence personnel managed to decode part of it. One word was repeated several times: Boyington. They were planning something big, something specific for me, and I wasn't going to sit around waiting to find out what. The next morning, I took off with my squadron, 10 Corsairs, the best pilots I had left. The mission was simple: an offensive patrol over Rabaul, territory completely controlled by the Japanese, the Dragon's Lair. We were looking for trouble, and problems found us. 40 minutes after takeoff, the sky darkened, not with clouds, with airplanes. More than 70 zeros, the biggest lineup I'd ever seen, and right in the center, like a black ghost, there he was, Sakai. The radio exploded with screaming voices, panic, confusion, fear. "Abort! Abort the mission! There are too many. We don't stand a chance. We're going to die. We're all going to die." I took a deep breath. I pressed the radio button. "Listen carefully, you sons of bitches." My voice came out calm, cold, deadly. "We're not going to run. We are the black sheep, and black sheep don't run. They attack." Silence on the radio. Then, one by one, I listened to the answers. "I'm with you, Pappy. Let's put an end to these bastards, to hell and back." I smiled. Even with the pain in my ribs, even with the fear eating me up inside. "So let's show these sons of bitches how to die fighting." I pushed the joystick forward, and we plunged straight into the abyss. What happened in the next 15 minutes was the closest thing to the apocalypse I've ever seen. The sky turned into a meat grinder of metal and fire. Planes exploding, parachutes opening, bodies falling like dead leaves. I took down the first zero in 10 seconds, the second in 20, the third soon after. 26 total kills now, but it didn't matter. Because Sakai was coming. I saw the black zero cutting through the sky like a blade, straight at me. This time it wasn't a provocation. He was murdered. We circled around each other, circles getting tighter and tighter. Each trying to gain position, each searching for the fatal opening. He shot. He missed by centimeters. I shot. I hit its tail, superficial damage. We climbed. 10,000 feet, 15,000, 20,000. The air grew thin. My lungs burned. My vision blurred at the edges. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. We're plunging in again. Terminal velocity. The world has become a blur. And then it happened. Sakai made a mistake. Just one. Tiny. Almost imperceptible. He turned 1 degree more than he should have. That was enough. I stuck to his tail. I aimed. I took a deep breath. And I pulled the trigger. The bullets ripped through the Zero's engine. Black smoke spewed out. It began to spin out of control. I had succeeded. He had shot down Saburo Sakai. But then I saw something I'll never forget. He didn't eject. Even with the plane in flames, even plummeting from the sky, he did not abandon Zero. He struggled. He struggled with the joystick. He struggled with the controls. He struggled until he managed to achieve a minimal level of stability. And then, seemingly impossible, he managed to glide all the way to a strip of beach. It made a forced landing. He survived. I saw him emerge from the cockpit, smoking, alive, staggering, but alive. He looked up, straight at me, and he made that damned salute again. He could have turned the tables and finished the job. Machine-gunned him right there on the beach. But I didn't. Because Sakai had taught me something. What honor still exists, even in hell. I tilted the wings in response. A pilot's salute to another pilot. Then I turned around and went back to base. When I landed, my score was 28 kills. 28. But I knew that would be the last one. Because 3 days later, I was shot down. Not by Sakai. For 6 Zeros who caught me alone over Rabaul. I fell into the ocean, and I spent 20 months as a Japanese prisoner of war. 20 months in hell. 20 months. 609 days. 14,616 hours. Each one of them was a second of agony. The prisoner of war camp in Rabaul was hell on earth. Constant hunger, daily beatings, dysentery, malaria, men dying beside me every night. I lost 23 kilos. My teeth fell out. My hair turned gray. But I didn't break. Because every night when I closed my eyes, I saw those 28 Zeros falling. I saw my men flying beside me. I saw Sakai saluting me. That kept me alive. In August 1945, everything changed. The guards disappeared during the night. Suddenly, without explanation, they just vanished. The next day, American planes flew over the field. They dropped food, medicine, cigarettes. The war was over. Japan had surrendered. I had survived. I returned home weighing 52 kilos. More dead than alive. The newspapers called me a hero. They held parades, ceremonies. They gave me medals. I threw them all in a chest and tried to forget. I tried to go back to being normal. I got married. I had children. I got a job. But every night I dreamed of the sky, of the Zeros, of the men I had killed. And with Sakai, years passed. Decades. In 1970, 25 years after the war, I received a letter. The envelope had Japanese stamps. Inside, a sheet of rice paper with characters I didn't understand. I took it to someone to translate. Era de Saburo Sakai. He had survived. He was flying again. He had shot down 28 more planes after our duel. 64 total kills. One of the greatest aces in history. But the letter didn't mention that. He was talking about me. Major Boyington. For 25 years, I carried his image in my mind. The American pilot who shot me down but didn't kill me. The man who chose honor over revenge. War turned us into enemies. But that day in heaven, we became something more. We became brothers. I would like to meet you. Not as enemies, but as veteran pilots who understand the weight of what we carry. If you accept, I'll send you tickets to Tokyo. With eternal respect, Saburo Sakai. 3 months later, I was on a plane to Japan. My wife thought I'd gone mad. My children didn't understand. How could I want to see the man who almost killed me? But they didn't understand. Nobody understood, except Sakai. We met at a small restaurant in Tokyo. He was 70 years old. I was 58. Two old men with more past than future. We looked at each other for a long moment, and then he smiled. We spent 3 days together. We drank sake. We told stories. We laughed about things that only the two of us could understand. On the last day, he took me to a Shinto shrine in the mountains. "I come here every month," he said. "I pray for the men I killed. All 64 of them." I remained silent. "Do you pray too?" he asked. "Every night," I replied. "At 28. He nodded. He placed his hand on my shoulder. "The war made us murderers, Boyington. But it doesn't have to make us monsters. We can bear the weight. We can honor the dead. We can live in a way that their deaths have meaning." We wept together in that sanctuary. Two old pilots who once tried to kill themselves, now just two men trying to find peace. When I got home, I took the medals out of the trunk. Not to glorify myself, just a reminder, remembering the men who died, the friends I lost, the burden I carry. And to remember that even in the hell of war, humanity can survive. Saburo Sakai died in 2000. He was 84 years old. I went to the funeral. And when I looked at that coffin, I didn't see an enemy. I saw a brother. Because in the end, it doesn't matter how many planes you shoot down. It doesn't matter how many medals you win. What matters is whether you can look at yourself in the mirror afterwards and still recognize the man looking back. My name is Gregory Boyington. 28 confirmed deaths. And every night, I still dream about them. If this story chilled your blood, if you felt every fall, every bullet, every drop of sweat and blood, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. Because the next story will show you that war has 1,000 faces, and all of them are haunting. See you on the next flight, if you have the courage.